Okay, let's jump right into this deep dive. We're putting aside the headlines today. We're not looking at complex data streams. We're focusing on a true knowledge shortcut, one that can genuinely save you time, money, and, a lot of stress every single time you get behind the wheel. We are talking about defensive driving, but specifically, we are looking at the geometry of safety. So the mission today is to master what experts call the front escape route, or the buffer zone. It's that critical managed space directly ahead of your car. And look, everybody knows you shouldn't follow too closely, but just knowing the minimum distance, well, that's not enough. We are deep diving into expert source material that's all about how to actively create and maintain this buffer zone, under all conditions. The goal here is to move beyond just reacting to things. We want to get into anticipation. We want to give you the time and the options you need to respond effectively when, that car in front of you suddenly stops. So first, we need to define this safety margin. Let's unpack this. What exactly is this essential buffer zone?
So the buffer zone is, well, it's your active safety margin. Think of it as a protective bubble of space that you maintain around your vehicle, between you and any potential road hazards.
And that's not just other cars, right?
No, not at all. It's other vehicles, sure, but also objects, obstacles, unexpected road conditions. This space is essential because it is literally buying you time to react, to decide, and to maneuver safely.
And crucially, the source material makes it really clear this isn't just about that gap between you and the car in front.
That's absolutely right. It's a really comprehensive concept. The buffer zone includes your following distance, yes, but also the space to your sides.
Giving you room to swerve if you have to.
Exactly. Room for evasive action or just safe lane changes. And it even includes the space directly behind you, which you manage by leaving space in front. It's all about ensuring you always have an escape route. And before we even get into moving at speed, let's tackle the most common scenario, coming to a complete stop.
Like at a traffic light or in heavy traffic?
Right. We call this the stationary stop rule. And the rule of thumb here is pretty non-negotiable. You must always leave enough of a gap so that you can easily steer around the vehicle in front of you if you need to escape.
Okay, so we can't use the time counting method here, obviously. How do you visually measure that safe gap?
It's a really practical visual check. Our sources recommend you should be able to see the bottom of the rear tires of the car ahead.
The bottom of the tires.
Specifically where the tires meet the pavement. You should be able to see that point, visible just above the hood of your vehicle. If you can see that, you have enough room to turn your wheel fully and maneuver out of the lane without having to reverse first.
So it's a physical maneuverability check. It's designed to help you avoid a second collision if someone is coming up too fast behind you and you need to get out of the way. But here's the real world challenge, the conundrum of the gap. If I maintain a really good gap at a stoplight, especially in heavy city traffic, doesn't that just invite someone else to constantly fill it and then I have to start all over again?
That is the constant frustration. And it's why defensive driving really requires patience. The sources acknowledge this. If you leave a big ideal gap, others will fill it. And when this happens, you have a split-second decision. You either accept the new, smaller space and just maintain your focus, or you slowly, gently let the car creep forward to re-establish that safe buffer.
But if I keep letting the gap expand to maintain my buffer, won't I eventually, disrupt the flow of traffic, maybe even annoy the people behind me?
You might. You absolutely might. But your primary focus has to be on safety, not on catering to impatient drivers. By prioritizing that safety margin, that ability to see the tires and escape, you are protecting yourself. You're protecting yourself from a possible rear-end collision or from being blocked in. The key is to be slow and deliberate when you reestablish that space. You manage the risk without being erratic. It's a balance for sure, but safety always, always tips the scale.
Okay, so we have the stationary position figured out. But what happens when we start moving at speed? The rule suddenly switches from a physical measurement to a time measurement. Let's talk about the two most cited metrics. 2 seconds versus 3 seconds. The 2-second rule is what most of us learn as the absolute minimum.
That's correct. The 2-second rule is the bare minimum safe following distance, and the source material is very, very clear on this. It is only suitable for ideal conditions.
So clear weather, dry roads, moderate traffic, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's better suited for lower speeds, like what you'd see in urban or suburban driving.
And there's a hidden cost to maintaining that bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
It's about concentration. Our research turned up a great little nugget here. The closer the gap you maintain, the more focused and less distracted your concentration needs to be.
Hmm.
2 seconds requires maximum uninterrupted focus.
Absolutely. And given how many distractions we all face today, that 2-second gap just doesn't build in enough of a margin for, well, for human error. And that's why the 3-second rule is promoted as the safer recommended standard.
That extra second, it doesn't sound like much.
It doesn't. But it radically transforms your reaction time and, crucially, your stopping distance, especially when you're traveling at higher speeds. It's the standard for highway driving.
3 seconds is the target. But for a lot of people, trying to estimate 3 seconds at, say, 70 miles per hour is just pure guesswork.
Yeah.
We need a practical, real-world way to measure that you can use every single time without fail. This is that ultimate aha moment in defensive driving. How do we actually do it?
It is a profoundly simple 3-step technique. It completely removes the guesswork. Step 1. You identify a fixed object on the side of the road or overhead. Something in the car in front of you is about to pass. It could be, an exit sign, a shadow from an overpass, a specific tree.
Okay, fixed object selected.
Step 2. When the rear bumper of the vehicle ahead of you passes that object, you start counting. Aloud is best using the cadence. 1001, 1002, 1003.
That cadence is key, right? Make sure you're actually counting full seconds.
It does. It internalizes the timing and keeps your focus where it belongs. And then step 3, check your position. If the front of your vehicle reaches that same object before you finish counting to 3, you're following too closely. You need to ease off the gas. If you pass it after the count, you've maintained a safe distance. This gives you that crucial reaction time. It guarantees enough stopping distance for smooth braking, and it really improves your visibility of the road ahead.
It's a consistent, real-time feedback loop. And while 3 seconds feels like a tiny amount of time, the operational benefits are huge. It lets you adjust your speed with just small throttle inputs instead of always hitting the brakes. It leads to smoother, less stressful, and, even more fuel-efficient driving.
And that 3-second gap is the benchmark. But defensive driving requires constant adjustment. So now we have to talk about when to adjust beyond 3 seconds. The core principle here is just physics. Anything that reduces the grip of your tires or increases your car's momentum requires more space.
So when do we start increasing that to 4, 5, or even 6 seconds? When do we start building that really massive gap?
You increase the margin whenever conditions are compromised. The obvious one is bad weather. Rain, snow, fog, icy roads. That requires more space, often 4 to 6 seconds.
Because your traction is just gone.
It's severely reduced, and braking distance extends exponentially. Night driving also warrants extra time because of visibility. Heavy traffic, where sudden stops are more common, demands a bigger buffer. Also, poor road surfaces, or even just driving when you feel fatigued or distracted, those should be immediate triggers to increase your distance.
So we're adjusting based on the external environment and our own internal state. But this raises a really important question. You mentioned momentum. How does the specific type of vehicle you are driving affect the buffer zone you need? Physics is pretty unforgiving here, isn't it?
It is absolutely unforgiving. Think of kinetic energy. It increases with the square of the speed and directly with mass. Stopping a baseball is easy. Stopping a bowling ball is hard. Standard passenger cars, they use that 2 to 3 second baseline. But as soon as you move up to an SUV or a crossover, the requirements shift immediately.
Right, because they're heavier and they sit higher off the ground.
Precisely. SUVs have more mass, so they demand more energy to stop. They also have a higher center of gravity, which affects stability and control in a high-stakes emergency maneuver. Our sources recommend at least 3 seconds in ideal conditions, and that increases very quickly to 4 seconds or more in poor weather.
And now we get into serious mass territory. Trucks and vans, especially when they're loaded with gear or cargo.
For a loaded truck or a large commercial van, you need a minimum of 4 seconds. That's because of the substantial weight and the momentum that comes with it. But the real game changer here is the semi-truck, the heavy goods vehicle.
Right. Semi-trucks are operating under completely different physics, including braking systems that most of us in passenger cars just don't understand.
They absolutely do. Large trucks often require 6 seconds, sometimes even more, especially if they're traveling downhill or fully loaded. This is because they use air brakes, and air brakes have a reaction lag that's not present in our hydraulic systems. So you have the driver's perception time, their reaction time, and then the air brake system itself needs time to apply pressure. That delay can easily eat up an extra second or two before the truck even starts to slow down.
Wow. 6 seconds is a massive buffer. If you're following a truck, that distance looks enormous, but you're creating a margin for a machine that simply cannot stop like your car can.
And we have to apply this to ourselves too. If you are towing a heavy trailer or a big boat, you have to treat your vehicle like a lighter version of a semi. 5 to 6 seconds or more is mandatory. The added weight, the increased stopping distance, and the potential for dangerous trailer sway if you brake too hard, it all adds up. The bottom line is mass and friction dictate your time.
That shift from 3 seconds to 6 seconds based on cargo is under. That's the key actionable takeaway from this section. Okay, let's pivot to the real world because maintaining this zone is toughest when you need it most. In heavy traffic, this is where it gets really interesting, managing the buffer zone in stop-and-go congestion.
This is a constant battle against what we call the accordion effect, where small stops at the front of a traffic line just amplify down the road into hard braking for everyone further back. To avoid this, you have to look far ahead, beyond the car, right in front of you. Try to watch what's happening 4 or 5 cars down the road to anticipate slowdowns before the brake lights even come on the car closest to you.
That anticipation lets us use the strategy of coasting.
Yes. When you see a slowdown ahead, you slow down gradually. Just ease off the accelerator, let the car coast instead of slamming on the brakes. This preserves your buffer zone, it reduces your own stress, and it prevents the accordion effect from starting behind you. You are communicating your slowdown to cars behind you long before your brake lights ever come on.
And we have to be defensive against the car behind us, too, especially if we notice they're distracted or, tailgating us really badly.
That's a huge point. If you identify a definite danger from the rear, maybe the driver is texting or they're just way too close, you actively increase the space in front of you to compensate. You're essentially giving yourself a bigger exit ramp. If you're forced to brake suddenly, your larger buffer zone means you can brake more gradually, giving that aggressive driver behind you a chance to react without rear-ending you.
But what happens when someone just negates all your efforts? They just cut right into your safe space. That feeling of having your precious managed buffer zone stolen can trigger a really aggressive emotional reaction.
And that reaction must be suppressed immediately. Priority one is always to stay calm. Resist the urge to retaliate, to honk, to make gestures. The actionable step is immediate and it's counterintuitive. Gradually ease off the gas, don't slam the brakes. That action just risks a collision from the car behind you. You have to slowly reduce your speed to reestablish that safe 3-second distance from the new car in front.
So we're absorbing the immediate shock by just letting our speed decay naturally. We give the new car its space, and then we just monitor the situation.
That's the process. Watch the new car. If they merge safely and just occupy the space, you reestablish your buffer and you continue. If they're driving erratically, cutting off other people, then you consider a safe lane change. But only if it's feasible and necessary to completely separate yourself from that situation.
Your primary goal is not revenge. It's safety and reestablishing the gap.
Exactly. So let's synthesize the benefits of this discipline approach. The value proposition of consistently keeping this buffer zone, whether it's 3 seconds or 6, is immense. It moves you from a reactive driver to a proactive one.
We've established the increased reaction time. But what about those downstream, often overlooked benefits?
Well, beyond just avoiding collisions, consistent gap management allows for incredibly smooth driving. And that smooth driving translates directly into reduced driver stress and fatigue. You're not constantly on edge, waiting for the next brake slam. It drastically reduces wear and tear on your vehicle, and as we mentioned, it improves fuel efficiency. And ultimately, it gives you that room for error, that critical space to swerve or change lanes safely.
Which can prevent a multi-car pileup.
And finally, the buffer zone is the single greatest defense against the most common type of accident, the rear-end collision. On the highway, where speeds are higher, reaction times are shorter, and consequences are amplified. This space is the ultimate test.
That's the highway-specific risk, right? Failing to maintain this gap means that one single sudden stop can guarantee a chain reaction collision.
By maintaining space, you reduce the need for sudden, violent, aggressive maneuvers. You ensure that you are driving predictably, and that is the very definition of maintaining an orderly, safe traffic flow.
So what does this all mean? Safety is an active process of managing the space around you. It means using the 3-second rule as your benchmark and immediately extending that space to 4, 5, or even 6 seconds based on external factors. Road conditions, bad weather, the density of traffic, or the weight of your vehicle. You have to actively engineer your own front escape route. We've established that the distance we need to stop is physical. It's based on speed, weight, and road condition. But the source material included a really powerful insight that often gets overlooked. If the gap is closer, the concentration needs to be more focused, less distracted. We usually adjust our physical gap for external factors like rain or cargo. But you should consider this. If the buffer zone is truly a measure of safety, what does the need to consistently increase that gap to 4, 5, or 6 seconds? Not because of rain or a trailer, but because of your own internal state? What does that really tell us? What does that necessary extra buffer reflect about our level of fatigue, distraction, or just our preparedness before we even start the engine? That's something to mull over the next time you decide how many 1,000 seconds you need to feel truly safe behind the wheel. Drive safe, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.